One recurring theme in BioShock is the use of mind control. Would you kindly, Ryan using pheromones to control the splicers, Big Daddies and Little Sisters having mental programming? Despite Ryan's ideals of freedom and self-determination, Rapture always ends up making you its slave in the end. After all, a man chooses, a slave obeys. But what if we took this principle to its extreme as we ask the question, can you beat BioShock with only mind control? The main rule is that I cannot directly damage enemies, rather I must trick them into fighting each other. This can take the form of hacking or using security bullseye to send turrets and drones after them, making them fight amongst themselves within rage, or simply tricking them into attacking each other. Technically, this makes this a pacifist run, although it's the most tenuous definition of pacifist you could muster. Environmental kills, like shooting a gas canister to blow up an enemy without directly harming them, are allowed, but I'll try to stay away from them unless absolutely necessary. The only other rule is that Vita chambers must be turned off. With all that out of the way, let's begin. The game starts with a bit of subtle foreshadowing. Our name is Jack, and we're getting high off nicotine while flying high in the sky. High, Jack? Get it? Whatever, it'll make sense later. For now, all we know is that we were taking a nice transatlantic flight before our plane stopped planing and we fell right into the briny. I attempt to simply swim away into the sea to get a bad ending, but since the game hates fun, it stops me with an invisible wall. Damn mermimes. With no other choice, I swim onto the ominous spire jutting out of the sea and cram myself into a tiny sphere to sink even further below, as any sane man does. Andrew Ryan then goes off about his revolutionary idealistic society, which can be summed up as pull yourself up by your bootstraps and fuck you, got mine. I'm sure demonizing helping others in an isolationist environment won't breed ruthless sociopathy, and never mind. Oh come on, stop that, you'll scratch the paint. After that ordeal, Atlas orders me to kindly pick up a shortwave radio. Like a petulant child, I refuse, as I don't have to do everything I'm told.
Grab that shortwave now. That splicer's out there still.
No, I don't wanna. Alright, fine. I have to use a wrench to break down some rubble to continue, even though there's clearly enough room for me to crawl through, but this doesn't fail the challenge as I'm not damaging any enemies. This goes for any other obstacle, like a lock or ice you have to incinerate. Speaking of incinerate, that's what I have to do to the splicer by making him run into a flaming couch until he perishes. Also, I feel dumb for not realizing this sooner, but...
Not if you don't visit the Gatherer's Garden, you aren't. Smart daddies get spliced at the garden.
Plasmids are made of both Adam and Eve, right? The Gatherer's Garden is the Garden of Eden. Duh. How did I not realize that? Continuing my streak of logical decisions, I inject the first random syringe of red liquid I find and then throw myself off a balcony, as if that would help anything. Seriously, it looks like I intentionally throw myself off, not like I stumbled. Besides, that fall would only lower my HP by a small amount. This is obviously rigged. Rant aside, I see the only reason I'd need to want to burn this place down, and then get into a bit of a pickle. For some unexplained reason, the door to continue won't open until this random splicer is dead, and there's no other enemies or hazards you can use to do the deed. So I have to violate the rules and whack him over the head with my wrench. I see this like the rad roach in Fallout 3. The game forces you to do it, so it doesn't count. We're then properly introduced to the Little Sisters, vultures that scavenge Adam from dead splicers, and their bodyguards, the Big Daddies, who leaves this man's chest oddly intact after shoving a giant drill through it. Since I don't get the enraged plasmid until after the medical pavilion, I have to rely on a flame turret to kill the first group of splicers. It's not easy, of course, as the flames deal as much damage to me as them, and if they manage to destroy the turret, I'm basically screwed. However, it's here where I discover something I've never seen once in this game: natural infighting. If you dodge out of the way of an enemy's attack so it hits another enemy, they might focus on beating each other to a pulp instead of you. I use this tactic combined with careful use of the turret to secure a victory, before Ryan tries to yank it away from me at the last moment. That will be a running theme. For now, I'm going to mostly rely on robots to fight for me, although it's less so rely and more so pray they help me, as this robot isn't doing jack shit. It was so useless, in fact, that its explosion upon dying killed more splicers than its goddamn machine gun. In order to hack most machines, I have to use Electrobolt to stun them first. Since this doesn't do any damage, again, it's not a rule violation. The turrets prove to be much more useful than the drones for now, as they gun down any splicer in my path with ease. All I have to do is lure them into its line of fire, and I'm golden. Steinman manages to escape, meaning I have to interpret mind control a different way, and control a bomb to blow up a path with my mind. After getting the Hacker's Delight tonic, I realized for the first time the importance of hacking security cameras. Any enemy who triggers them is assaulted by an endless, and I mean endless, swarm of machine gun drones. If the timer runs out, just get them to trigger it again. Since enemies aren't smart enough to actively target the cameras, you could, in theory, systematically lure all the enemies in a level to them and take them out without having to fire a single shot. You can see how effective they are as they take out this group of splicers, who you're supposed to kill with Incinerate, with little effort. Speaking of Incinerate, I use it to melt a way forward and then get assaulted by a rolling table. If only he had discovered telekinesis before me, he could have done some serious damage with that thing. I use a missile turret to blast the sucker into a fine paste, and then listen to the lovely effects of the Enrage plasmid.
We've codenamed the Lot 44 Enrage because of its tendency to... Nurse? Hold him down! Nurse!
Can't wait to get my hands on that. Before I get it, though, I have to rely on the crude method of tricking enemies into whacking each other. It's actually not as hard as you'd think, as melee attacks are more physics-based, not just, if you're in this spot, you take damage. You can dodge them pretty consistently if you know what you're doing. With telekinesis in hand, literally, I blow up the huge pile of rubble with a jury-rigged tin can grenade, physics be damned, and catch up with Dr. Steinman, who uses the tactic of psychologically attacking the player.
Symmetrical! And now... What's this, goddess? An intruder! He is ugly! 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 Ugly!
I let a turret whittle down some of his health, and when that goes down, I use a hacked camera to swarm him with bots. It takes a long-ass time for them to finally finish him off, but once they do, I can get a good look at his face and realize that he's a complete hypocrite.
He's ugly! Ugly! Ugly!
Oh, and I get his key, I guess. Also, I didn't know you could do this, but you can get splicers stuck on the geometry so they just stand there and yap all day.
Blood! Blood! Give me the meds! Get them for me now! Oh, Jesus! What did you do to me? Give me the meds! Get them for me now!
You need to shut the fuck up!
I am then faced with a difficult and profound moral decision. Do I save the little girls, or do I brutally murder them? The tension is so high, it even begins to mess up the game's font. That's how you know it's serious. Saving the little sisters gets you the hypnotized Big Daddy plasmid, but honestly, being able to tell them to kill anything I want would make things far too easy and simple for my tastes. So I opt for ripping the slugs out of their guts instead, simply because I'm gonna need all the atom I can handle for things like plasmid slots and hacking tonics. I put the atom to use right away as I buy the main plasmid I'm gonna use for this run, Enrage.
Enrage your enemies. Laugh as your enemies fight each other.
If you saw my video about beating Fallout 4 with only hallucinogen grenades, it basically works the same way. Enemies will attack anything nearby for a few moments, but even if the plasmid wears off, they'll still finish any fight they start. It works against both splicers and Big Daddies, but not machines, so hacking is still going to be an important alternative if there aren't enough enemies to fight each other. Now, we're moving on to Neptune's bounty to track down Atlas's family. I use an enraged Big Daddy to deal with the first few splicers, then hack a missile turret to clean house as well. I thought I could distract the big lug while the turret bloomed to bits, but he takes it out before that can happen. The good news is that since Big Daddies are passive by default, they'll stop fighting you once Enrage wears off. This makes them very useful for taking out or distracting enemies as long as I keep my distance. Old Peach Wilkins wants me to get some panty shots of spider splicers, as they like to crawl on the ceiling and all that. Before I can do the sick pervert's bidding, however, the one who scratched up my bathysphere comes to finish the job. Since there's nothing in this room to kill her, I just have to dodge like a madman until Peach can scare her off with a drone, just like Atlas did at the start. I never use the camera unless I need to, as I'm fairly certain damage bonuses don't apply to enemy infighting, even your own hacked robots. Correct me if I'm wrong. With good use of Enrage and, of course, the Big Daddy, I'm able to cut through all the splicers in my path. That is, until I accidentally trigger security and start a clusterfuck I can't describe, where I hop around, hack turrets, and get filled with lead until I have to crash out in the corner until it's over. Sometimes this game makes me feel like a clever badass, and sometimes it makes me feel like an abused child. Regardless, I managed to get the camera, my first Spider Splicer picture, and the second most used plasmid for this run, Security Bullseye. It's essentially the robotic equivalent of Enrage, only instead of making the target attack everything around them, it makes all the security around them attack the target. With this, I technically no longer need to hack security cameras, although I still do so out of fear of them spotting me. Needless to say, there's not much my enemies can do when I have a never-ending army of loyal flying Tommy guns on my side. I get my second and quickly third Spider Splicer picture, using the cameras to deal with anything in my way, and rush back to Fontaine Fisheries. They're so strong that with enough patience, baiting, and rivets in my spinal cord, I can even take down 2 Big Daddies with them. They never think to just blow up or shoot down the camera, so it's basically a guaranteed victory. Returning the photos to Peach, he tells me to relinquish all my weapons until he lets me in. Fortunately for me, when he goes all loopy, I don't need them. I can simply turn his own weapons against him. Not only does he have an endless barrage of gunfire on him at all times, his own splicer buddies and even his own turrets turn against him. I guess he was right to be paranoid of betrayal after all. Unfortunately, I didn't think ahead and equipped Incinerate before coming in here, as there's some ice you have to melt to progress. It's a good thing there's a gene bank in here I forgot about, or else I'd have to do that whole fight all over. Now it's time to meet up with Atlas and his family in the flesh, but Ryan threatens me by saying,
"If you press that button, you'll learn what it means to truly be mine."
Ryan, that's a lever, not a button. You need your eyes checked? I was curious as to what would happen if you refused to flick the switch, and find out there's some unique dialogue concerning Atlas's family.
Can you hear me, family in the sub? Are they making any noise at all?
This line implies that there's nothing in the sub and this is all a farce. However, if you look closely at the explosion, you can see a male and female corpse fly through the air. I like little details like this, it keeps you guessing. Were those Atlas's family members, or just random splicers to use as a decoy? Either way, it's time to head to Acadia, although instead of pretentious robot hippies, it's teleporting cultish frat boys. I honestly don't know which is worse. Alright, I'm gonna be 100% honest here. I don't like this level. It's probably my least favorite level in the game. My problem with it is that it starts out with healthy trees, Ryan kills them, and then you bring the trees back. Basically, you didn't accomplish anything besides return things to the status quo. Combine that with the fetch quest nature of having to scrounge around and backtrack for stuff, and every time I just want to get it all over with. Now, you could say the same thing about Fort Frolic, but at least that level is more straightforward and you can meet Sandra Cohen later in the game, making it at least somewhat worthwhile. Julie Langford dies in this level before you really know that much about her, and she ceases to be relevant to the plot. It feels like the whole thing could be cut out and the game really wouldn't lose that much. Therefore, I'm not really going to cover it in detail, as I mostly just ran past everything, and the final section especially was a slog of running around and waiting. Point is that I acted like the Rapture equivalent of the Lorax, just with a lot more child murder. Alright, next stop, Fort Frolic. Before I dip my balls back into the devil's mouth, I decide to cool my nerves with a bit of gambling. And, out of sheer chance, I hit the jackpot, getting a Steam achievement in the process. I have a feeling I used up all my luck right there, and I was right. Yep, Sandra Cohen, the deranged artist with a fascination for plastering corpses on the walls, wants me to play a game before he'll let me go. In order to progress, I have to kill all the spider splicers he throws at me. The Enraged Plasmid makes this simple until I'm left with one I have no way of killing. That is, until I remember you can trigger security bots with vandalism, so I do just that and use Security Bullseye to give her a hot lead makeover. It seems my work is cut out for me here, as the enemies are fighting each other without even needing Enrage. I quickly slip into Sandra Cohen's studio, using the security as a smokescreen, although the constant alarm blaring kinda ruins the dramatic moment.
I'm trying.
Once again, young Fitzpatrick.
Oh God, you sick fuck, let me out of there!
Wow, that performance sure blew up in his face. Haha, yeah, I kinda deserve the same fate for that pun. Cohen wants me to photograph the corpses of his former disciples who betrayed him, not to make a statement of intimidation to his enemies, mind you. He just wants something to gawk at. The first one is a lot like Cohen himself, only it turns people into ice statues rather than plaster. I thought I was stuck here at first, as there's nothing in the room to fight against him, until I realized I could lure him out. Then, it's a simple matter of both killing and immortalizing him with a camera. Next is Cobb, who's obsessed with fire instead of ice. His kittens mostly burn themselves to death, although when there's one left and nothing on fire, I begin to get worried. Luckily, he doesn't lock the door until all the enemies are dead, so I can escape and get a nearby Big Daddy to disembowel him. Lastly is Hector, who runs away like a little bitch instead of fighting you directly. This makes him quite hard to kill with cameras, as he'll simply run out of range of the bots. I ignore him for now in favor of working on Cohen's masterpiece, although this causes him to go berserk and send an army of splicers after me. For the most part, it's not too hard to make them take each other out. That is, except for the last one, who I have to lure into the cameras to finish off. Seriously, I don't know what I'd do without these things. When I come back to Hector, he seems oddly passive, as if he's accepted his fate. Now that he's not running around like a chicken with its head cut off, I can lure a Big Daddy into his room and watch as he gets pummeled into the corner. With Cohen's masterpiece complete, I decide to be a dick and stand in front of it so he can't see it. He doesn't seem to mind, however, and even gives me a tonic for my troubles. With that, I tip my hat to him and say goodbye, heading to Hephaestus to put an end to Ryan once and for all. Here, hacking is starting to get harder, and since I haven't been fully investing in hacking tonics at this point, it makes things a bit more tricky. It's not at the point of impossibility yet, as we'll see later, but still, I'll have to use my limited auto hacks wisely. Getting the nitroglycerin is as simple as repeatedly slamming myself into electric wires while being cornered by a firing squad, resulting in most of my first aid kits going down the drain. We need this nitroglycerin for an EMP bomb to get into Ryan's office, which also requires some ionic gel and Rule 34, R34 wire clusters. The annoying part is that I passed by several cans of ionic gel already, but was unable to pick them up for some reason. While looking around for them, I stumble into a sealed hallway filled to the brim with splicers. I'll just get them to kill themselves like usual, right? No. See, when the last splicer is left standing, you can't leave the room until she dies, and I don't have anything in here to deal with her. I thought I could trick her into fireballing a gas canister, but she still has half a brain cell left and always aims above them. In the end, I have to do something I wanted to avoid as much as possible. I use Electrobolt to blow up a canister near her, ending her life. Technically, I did not deal any direct damage to her, it was just an environmental kill. However, I understand if you think this means I failed the challenge. I couldn't see any other way I could have done this though, unless I maybe hacked a security bot and brought it in here. Either way, there's no use harping on what's already done. I use a group of splicers to whittle down a Big Daddy before getting a turret to finish it off, netting me the first wire clusters I need. I find the second on a nearby Big Daddy corpse. As for the third, I once again trick a Big Daddy into becoming public enemy number 1. Well, I try to. It gets stuck on its own little sister for a moment before it remembers it's supposed to be an unstoppable juggernaut. Since it's a melee Big Daddy, it has a harder time taking care of the bots, giving them more time to fill it with holes before going down. After a few rounds, the big bastard goes down, luckily not damaging the wire clusters in the process. I repeat the process with another Big Daddy to get the last bits of wiring, this time using a target dummy so it doesn't focus on the bots at all, resulting in a much easier kill. Honestly, this is a lot easier than killing a Big Daddy on a non-challenge playthrough with, you know, bullets. Maybe more tedious, but definitely easier. Shoving a huge EMP bomb up my ass, I haul it over to the core, not before spinning a wheel for a bit while using Enrage to keep Ryan's cronies off my back. With that, I blow Ryan's defenses to hell, look away as cool guys don't look at explosions, and make a mad dash to his office, soaking up gunfire like a sponge. This entire playthrough, I've been gaslighting and manipulating people to get what I want. So to see that it happened to me at such a young age...
Break her neck for me. What? Break that sweet puppy's neck. No, please. Break that puppy's neck. Would you kindly? No. No.
Yeah, it explains a lot. Just replace Puppy's neck with little girl's slug, and things haven't changed that much. Yep, it turns out this whole time, I was actually the one being mind-controlled, specifically by the phrase, "would you kindly." In fact, I was raised by birth to be a genetic superweapon, meant to put the events of the game in motion, including the plane crash, which was really me hijacking it. See? I told you it would make sense later. As he believes his city is about to explode, Andrew Ryan decides to go out on his own terms, forcing me to play golf with his eyeballs.
Obey!
Nice shot!
Technically, I still killed him with mind control, it was just on the other foot this time. I try to disobey my destiny and destroy the genetic keyhole, but alas, it is in vain. Atlas goes from Irish to Bronx and takes control of all of Rapture, leaving me to die. However, instead of being smart and just saying, "would you kindly shove your own gun down your throat and pull the trigger," he trusts that a bunch of security bots will do the job despite the fact that I have Security Bullseye, Electrobolt, and I'm
Hacker Man. He's the most powerful hacker of all time.
He's really not the freshest egg in the carton, is he? I escape, and Tenenbaum undoes some of Frank's mindfuckery, meaning all I have to do now is cure myself completely before tracking him down. Despite mass murdering them, the little girls treat me more like the school bully who steals their candy, and so they reluctantly open the path to Apollo Square. It's at this point that, without the right tonics, hacking becomes so absurdly quick that it's nigh impossible unless you get lucky, meaning I'll mostly be relying on buyouts or Security Bullseye from now on. As it turns out, enemies can destroy security cameras, but only if they were aiming for something else and happened to hit one. They don't target them on purpose. This means I'll have to be a bit more careful with them from now on. After a lot more running around and pretending I know what I'm doing, I find the elevator code and ride it to Fontaine's little palace. I use the cameras to take care of anyone in my way and then find the sample of Lot 192 I need. Only, I can't drink it yet. I don't see why. It's not like Jack is new to ingesting foreign liquids with no explanation. No, I have to run all the way back to Shu Chong's lab and learn about the research first. Whatever. The point is that I've now scrambled my DNA even more than it already was, and I have to solve this by drinking even more of the trippy liquid. Unfortunately, there's a security bot blocking the elevator to escape, so I just have to get lucky and hope I get Electrobolt, then hack the thing and get it to flutter out of there. Since my plasmids are randomized, I can't really do much here. I just have to hoof it to the second dose as fast as possible. Now, we're gonna deal with Frank Fontaine once and for all. When I say once and for all, I mean it this time, trust me. Despite the fact that I'm carrying a small arsenal in my pocket, I can't just use a grenade launcher or something to blast through the ordinary door. That would make far too much sense. No, the logical solution is to mutilate myself into a Big Daddy lookalike so a little girl can open the door for me. This level doesn't start out too hot, as I get blown up several times by rockets before finally being able to use them to my advantage, and then getting blown up some more. I mostly just run and stumble around like a madman until I happen to come across a giant lemon juicer, which I promptly deep throat. While I manage to take out a Big Daddy with bots, I'm running dangerously low on first aid, and if I fail to hack something, I have to pop a first aid kit just to survive. Quickly after, I find the helmet and bodysuit, and after using a different Big Daddy to clear a path for me, find the 3 vials of perfume as well. Lastly are the boots, which are oddly found lying around in a library instead of being with the rest of the suit. Now that I'm a Big Daddy, I have to protect a little sister through a series of doors to reach Fontaine. Despite Tenenbaum saying they're just as vulnerable as any child now, they can still take multiple gunshots, missiles, and lead pipes to the skull before dying. Which is good, because if that wasn't the case, this would be even more torturous. I don't get why we can't just pick up the little brats and take them with us, but regardless, the final level can be summed up as so. Do you like escort missions? Do you like escort missions with mass child death? Enemies that won't get in the line of sight of your cameras for minutes on end? A little girl who runs back into danger when she gets hurt instead of running forward, and painfully slowly at that? Then BioShock 1's final level is for fucking you, you goddamn psychopath. Sorry. This just took a lot out of me. Let's just skip to the final boss. Frank Fontaine doses himself up on so much Eve that he turns into Atlas himself, being huge and made of metal, posed like a statue when he's in his chair, and holding the world in his palms in the form of elemental spheres. It's actually quite a poetic and thematic encounter, once you look past how simple and formulaic it is. Also, fun fact, Frank and Tenenbaum have unique dialogue if you refuse to engage him at the start of the fight.
You got nothing but deuces and threes, kid. You busto, you hear me? I'm just getting jinx and you're spitting nickels.
What are you waiting for? Hit him with the needle!
Come on! Make a move if you're gonna make it!
Since there's no robots, cameras, or splicers in the first phase, I have to pick up a gas canister with telekinesis and hold it in front of him, so he slaps it and blows himself up. I didn't throw it at him on purpose, mind you, he brought this on himself. His second phase features a few flying turrets, so I use security bullseye to make Frank hoist by his own petard. He manages to kill them before they can seal the deal, so I have to use the same trick. His final phase features a bunch of mooks, which I use in Rage Against so Fontaine can feel what it's like to be double-crossed. Also, this happens. Again, he manages to kill all of them before being finished off, so I have to pick up a few more canisters and make him slap them. Despite being drained fully of Adam, he's able to perform a melee strike against me that knocks me to the ground, unlike all his other attacks. I suppose he channeled the dramatic effect plasmid for that one. As he does a typical villain monologue, a bunch of little girls jump him and stab him to death in a humiliating defeat. With that, I become a power-hungry megalomaniac just like him as I seize a nuclear submarine to bend the world to my will, proving that, yes, you can beat BioShock with only mind control. Now, would you kindly like and subscribe? I said, would you kindly like and subscribe? No.
You broke the spell!
Hey everyone, thanks for watching yet another video. I appreciate any support you can give me so I can make similar content for you in the future. Leave your ideas for new videos in the comments. I read all the comments that come my way and put your ideas at the end of each video. Who knows, your idea might even become an official video. If you really want to support me, go to my Patreon or become a channel member, which will get you shouted out, guarantee an opportunity to chat with me, and make your ideas much more likely to become reality. Plus, it's only 17 cents a day. Even just 20 subscribers to my Patreon would mean a lot to me, and help me put out even better content. Check me out on Reddit or Discord using the links in the description if you want to chat, or check out my second channel, The Loophole, for some extra content. This is Causal Loop, signing off. Peace.